would like to ask the audience one question. Could please those of you raise your arms who have already thought about your burial arrangement? I think it's not that many, maybe it's because we need some more MCR members here. Basically what my PhD research is about. So if I could use some buzzwords, my PhD research is about the Egyptian state formation, which I will from now onwards address as the early dynastic period. My PhD is also about the first ancient Egyptian capital, which was the city of Memphis. It is also about analyzing cemeteries with the help of statistics. And in my PhD, I also think about how people decided to choose a certain type of funerary equipment. So where is this region of Memphis, the city of Memphis I was talking about? It is pretty much to be found where present-day Cairo, the current capital of Egypt, is located. You can see the yellow area on the slide. If we zoom into this region, you can see the Nile Valley in green and the surrounding deserts, with the most important early dynastic sites marked on this map. And you have to imagine this kind of area nowadays as covered completely by the urban sprawl of what is modern Cairo, which is pretty much illustrated by the picture in the left-hand corner. So, the city of Memphis, why is it so important and so interesting for archaeology? It is because we have evidence that the city of Memphis was the first ancient Egyptian capital after the ancient Egyptian state just formed. And just by the way, the ancient Egyptian state was the first national state in human history. So this is why this is extra interesting. And unfortunately, we still know very little about society and the people who lived in this settlement or town or whatever you want to call it. And whatever information we can access about people living there is from the cemeteries surrounding the Nile Valley at this spot. Unfortunately, this is because there are no settlement remains preserved through modern archaeological excavation for reasons I don't want to expand on right now. But there's this one very important site called Helwan that you can see highlighted on the map here. It is an ancient Egyptian cemetery that I was very lucky to be involved with the project for the last 4 years. And Helwan is a very exceptional site in that it's the biggest early dynastic cemetery we have from ancient Egypt. It contains some of like 10,000 graves. And it is also very exceptional in that the people buried there represent the very lower class all the way up to middle class of society. So it's a very non-elite context, and that is what makes it extra interesting. So if you imagine this wide social spectrum of non-elite people buried at Helwan, when you work there, you can get graves that look like this, which are essentially very simple pits dug into the sand, where the deceased person was buried in a crouched position with no burial goods whatsoever, maybe just a small pottery juglet holding in their arms, like this one here. And if we move up the social spectrum, you can also get graves that look like this, which are larger subterranean structures that would be accessed through a staircase and included many burial goods for a deceased person. So what is it I do with this information from the excavation? I take all the possible variables I can get my hands on from when we work there, and those variables can be body related, they can be structural, or they can be about grave goods. And I try to understand whether there are any underlying relationships that these variables have in common. I do this with the help of the analysis of variance or multiple regression in the program RStudio. And what I want to do now is to present you with some very, very preliminary results. One of them, for example, is the simple equation: no expenditure on the body equals in a bigger grave. So statistically, there seems to be a very significant relationship between those two categories. And if I put it in other words, if you were buried with no extra expenditure on your body, with no wooden coffin, or not being wrapped in linen or leather, there's a statistically significant inclination for you to have a bigger grave. What does this mean? Like, my biggest guess at the moment is that probably with those people buried at Helwan, they might have had very limited resources for their burial, so they probably had to decide when they were buried or whether they were planning to have a funeral, whether they would be buried in a wooden coffin or rather pay for a bigger grave. But this is the best guess I have at the moment to explain this tendency within the data set. And last but not least, the older the deceased, the bigger and richer the grave. For us, in modern terms, this seems like a very logical fact, because we are very adjusted to the concept of accumulating wealth as we grow older. Therefore, this whole relationship seems very logical. But there is a big but. And the periods preceding the early dynastic period in Egypt, this is not the case. So in the evidence we have from the periods before ancient Egyptian state formation, it seems that older people do not differentiate themselves in the way they are buried. And this is a very interesting finding so far. Thank you very much for your attention.